After uploading my 4-minute video yesterday, I realized that there was something wrong with the way I was approaching my daily upload strategy. I've been focusing so much on what completing a content challenge like this would do for me that I paid no mind as to what my daily uploads would do for the people who watch them. And that's backwards. People who make content with the goal of gratifying themselves will not be able to build an audience with that approach. So I spent some time thinking about the value that I want to provide to the people that watch me on this channel. That doesn't mean I didn't have a value proposition in mind when I started this challenge. My initial goal when I started this series was to inspire people to take actionable steps towards their dream life. And while that's still the case, I realized that I didn't think hard enough as to how I'll make that happen with my videos, and that I was missing a crucial piece to my formula that would make this all work. So the question I asked myself was this: how can I make my daily uploads as useful for my audience as they are for me? And I actually found my answer from listening to my audience on my gaming channel. I also upload on a daily basis on my gaming channel, and a comment I get pretty often is how my content has become a part of my audience's daily lives. A lot of people watch my videos while they're working, while handling chores around the house, and while trying to fall asleep, and it's common for my audience to do this regularly or even every day. And that's something I hadn't thought about yet for this channel. It made me think about whether or not I'm currently uploading the kind of content that people can integrate into their daily lives, because that's the main benefit of daily uploads for the audience of content creators who do daily uploads. The creator can give their audience something to look forward to every day, and I seem to have forgotten that at some point along the way. So how do I plan on framing my videos in a way that will make people look forward to them every day? That is the question that I intend to find a proper answer to by the end of this 30-day challenge. But in an effort to guide my thinking in the right direction, I started thinking about the creators whose content I personally consume on a daily basis and what aspects I can apply to my own content. For this practice, I had two content creators come to mind: Stephen Bartlett and his Diary of a CEO podcast, and Dan Koh, who is a leading voice for the one-person business model in the creator economy. I think of the Diary of a CEO podcast because it was the first podcast I started listening to with the conscious effort to better myself. I realized the saying, "You are a product of your environment," is truer than ever. And since I wasn't happy with my station in life and couldn't change the major environments that were contributing to that feeling, I decided to change the aspects of my life that I did have control over. One of the environments I changed was my commute to work. I had to commute 2 hours every day for my day job, and I realized that those were 2 hours that I could be using to develop myself rather than relieve myself from whatever stressors life was challenging me with. I realized that my process of decompressing and finding relief from my day-to-day did not bring me any closer to who I wanted to be, so I decided it was best to change things up. So instead of listening to music or videos with more of an entertainment focus, I started listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast to see if I could rewire my brain to operate from that headspace instead. It didn't matter to me if I was interested in the actual topic of discussion or how much of it I was actually picking up, because the important part was that I was putting myself in that space and giving myself a chance to pick up on the wisdom that these people were putting down. I was learning a lot about how these people carried themselves, what kinds of questions they asked, what kinds of questions they liked answering, what parts of life excited them, and whether or not they found joy in bringing value to other people's lives. And I found that I was able to bring out more of that energy for myself just by consuming content of that nature. The only thing about the Diary of a CEO podcast is that it's a variety show, which was fine at first, because if you don't know what kind of life mission you would resonate with, it's best to look at as many different kinds as you can before you decide on one. But at some point I started wanting to consume content that was more in line with my personal goals and philosophy, and in my search for that kind of content, I found Dan Koh, who I still listen to this day. I resonated with Dan's vision because he introduced me to a lifestyle that I didn't think was possible. He was the first content creator I encountered who not only put such a heavy emphasis on writing as a valuable money-making skill, but also wanted to put it into practice in a way that I could fully understand its efficacy. And that mattered to me, because I was very much into writing while growing up, but I was conditioned to believe that careers in writing didn't exist, and that the STEM and college routes were the only viable paths for people like myself. But Dan is living the life I would be living if I had the perspective required to overcome my disadvantageous programming, which is a perspective I didn't actually start building until recently. So what made Dan's content different? What was it about his vision that actually made me take action and start making changes in my life? By the end of this 30-day content challenge, I intend to figure out how to get people moving towards their goals in the same way that Dan has inspired me to move towards mine. Value isn't something I intend to present on a silver platter, but a discovery I wish for my audience to have as a result of spending time with me here. Subscribe if you're down to see what happens next.